for $900, be $400 for labor, $400 for material, and $100 profit for me. The guy from Tennessee said, well, he measured and he figured, and he said, I can do that job for $700, $300 material, $300 labor, and $100 profit for me. The fellow from Chicago leaned over to the guy from the White House and said, I can do that job for $2,500. The White House man was incredulous. He said, you didn't even measure and you didn't even figure? How'd you come up with that ridiculous figure? The guy from Chicago said, it's easy. $1,000 for you, $1,000 for me. We'll hire the guy from Tennessee to do the job. Milton Friedman said, if you put the government in charge of the Sahara Desert, in 5 years, there'll be a scarcity of sand. The fight for liberty has been ongoing since our founding. The Boston Tea Party today still stands as a beacon for the desire, the need, the want for Americans to be free. We're in the middle of another American Revolution. It's John Maynard Keynes versus Milton Friedman in the Chicago School of Economics, the New York Times versus the Wall Street Journal, liberal versus conservative, NBC versus Fox, Republican versus Democrat, Romney versus Obama, and the campaign for liberty. This is a war we dare not lose. Now, my father reminded us that when government decides to give something away, it first has to take it away from the private sector. Today's modern conservatism is preoccupied with freedom. It all began in the late 1950s with Frederick Hayek, Russell Kirk, William Buckley, Milton Friedman, Lew Rockwell, and Goldwater's Conscience of a Conservative. I could hear my father, Senator Barry Goldwater, say, let me remind you, a conservative is one who seeks to expand individual liberty and resist the accumulation of power by those who they think better. In his book, The Conscience of a Conservative, which I would recommend to everyone, in the beginning chapter, he explains the root difference between a liberal and a conservative. Goldwater says that a conservative takes in the whole person, the whole man, whereas a liberal looks mostly upon the monetary side of the people. Conservatives believe a man is a spiritual creature with spiritual needs. We're each very unique, and we need a philosophy and we need a government that takes into account individual differences and create conditions so that each can develop to whatever they want to develop to. Mr. President, we don't need your kind of hope and change. The kind of hope and change we need is to expand liberty and get government off our backs and out of our pockets. Once freedom is lost, our country is lost. I commend each and every one of you for the campaign for liberty that you invoked on. You are the backbone of this movement. It started probably, it kind of consolidated itself in 1964 at the Cow Palace at the convention in San Francisco, when Goldwater wrestled away from the liberal Eastern establishment the philosophy that now dominates and defines what a Republican is. This movement, this philosophy, has had a bumpy road, but it is still alive, it is still well, it is still important. In a real sense, the people hold the flame of liberty in their hands. Whether or not we can keep it, grow it, and expand its illumination across the nation is ours, and only ours, if we can keep it. That concludes all my serious and non-serious remarks today, but let me remind you my philosophy that at the end of the day, when all is said and done, I take life with a grain of salt, a lick of a lemon, and a shot of tequila. Thank you very much.
Barry Goldwater. Our next speaker, you've seen him on Fox TV, you've seen him on MSNBC, you've listened to him on the radio for many, many hours. I have. He's our blogger, and he's written books with senator from South Carolina and a senator from Kentucky. He's written all kinds of books, and he's about to write a book with Doug Weed called The Mouse That Roared. Will you please welcome the Southern Avenger, Jack Hunter.
My God, do I love this movement. Give yourselves all an applause. This is an awesome day. At the 2010 Conservative Political Action Conference, Ron Paul told the audience, there's every reason for us to think seriously about what we actually believe, about what conservatism actually really means. As usual, Dr. Paul was absolutely correct. Given the government growth and massive spending we saw the last time the Republicans were in control, conservatives were long overdue of wanting to examine their philosophy or examining what their movement even means. Thanks to the rise of Ron Paul, this has begun to happen. During this election, Senator Jim DeMint said, "I'd like to see a Republican Party that embraces a lot of the libertarian ideas. The Republican Party needs to start listening to Ron Paul." Interestingly, also during this election, Senator Rick Santorum said, "I fight very strongly I haven't even delivered the line. It gets worse. Senator Rick Santorum said, "I fight very strongly against libertarian influence in the Republican Party and the conservative movement." Now, Senator DeMint is one of the most popular conservative leaders in the country, and he has urged the Republican Party to adopt the ideas of Ron Paul. Rick Santorum is a conservative leader who says the GOP must reject the ideas of Ron Paul, that liberty has nothing to do with conservatism. I submit to you today that Senator DeMint is not only correct, but his call for a more libertarian Republican Party represents American conservatism as it has historically always been. I also submit to you that Rick Santorum doesn't know what in the hell he's talking about. It was not Ron Paul, but Ronald Reagan who said, "I believe if you analyze it, the very heart and soul of conservatism is libertarianism." Now, what